I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is an open meeting of the Seward, Nebraska governing body. The City of Seward abides by the Nebraska Open Meetings Act in conducting business. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is displayed on the north wall of this meeting room facility as required. Disclosure of meeting recording process is posted in the meeting room. A participant sign-in sheet is available for use by any citizen addressing the council. Presenters shall approach the podium, state their name and address for the clerk's record, and are asked to limit remarks to 5 minutes. All remarks will be directed to the mayor, who shall determine by whom any appropriate response shall be made. The City of Seward reserves the right to adjust the order of items on this agenda if necessary, and may elect to take action on any of the items listed. Please call the roll.
Wilkins.
Present.
Beck. Here. Camper.
Here.
Fritz.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Singleton.
Here.
Schmidt.
Here.
And
Here. First item this evening is consideration of approval of draft minutes of October 17th, 2017.
Move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, could you register your votes? Please display the votes.
in favor, Wilkins. Beck. Camper. Fritz. Miller. Singleton. Schmidt. And
Item number 2 is consideration of approval of draft minutes of special work session of October 24th, 2017.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
in favor, Wilkins. Beck. Camper. Fritz. Miller. Singleton. Schmidt. And
Next is the consent agenda, which does contain the amended item, which is number 5, the addition of Tyler Dickinson to the volunteer firefighter roster.
Move for approval.
Second.
With a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
in favor, Wilkins. Beck. Camper. Fritz. Miller. Singleton. Schmidt. And
Item number 7, this is a public hearing. Consideration of a building moving application from Blue River Pet Rescue. This is a request to move a structure from Ulysses, Nebraska into Seward, beginning on West Highway 34, south on 294th Road, east on Isaac Walton Road, south on Highway 15, west onto Cottonwood Street, to the final location, which is 1427 Cottonwood Street. Any questions, if you had on this item, or comments you'd like to make from the council? It is a public hearing, so if you'd like, we could do a public comment portion of this first. Does anyone from the public wish to comment on item number 7? Okay. Seeing no one from the public wishing to comment, I assume Dr. Ellis will be available to answer questions if you have any of him after the public comment portion. So I will close the public comment portion of the public hearing. Does anyone from the council have any questions or comments on the item? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to approve the moving application.
Move for approval.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
in favor, Wilkins. Beck. Camper. Fritz. Miller. Singleton. Schmidt. And
All right, thank you. Item number 8, this is appointment of Dr. Gerald Faby to the library board.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
in favor, Wilkins. Beck. Camper. Fritz. Miller. Singleton. Schmidt. And
Next is item number 9. This is consideration for recommendation to the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission approving Daniel D. Gross as manager of retail Class C liquor license for Veterans of Foreign Wars located at 243 South 9th Street. Did you add on that, Bonnie?
Nothing, police department did their background, there's nothing negative for them to report.
Any questions or comments on the item?
Introduce it.
So we making a motion?
Yep. How's the resolution?
I think 9 is
Oh,
just
okay.
a motion, I believe. So this is approving Daniel D. Gross, which is a recommendation, but the council is approving Daniel D. Gross as the manager for the VFW. So you have a motion, do you have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Welcome back, Campbell, Fritz, Miller, Single, Schmidt, Hancock.
Next item, this is number 10, consideration of a resolution approving supplemental agreement number 4 with Shemmer Associates Incorporated for preliminary engineering services on the Seward Trail project. Greg?
Yeah, Shimmer is our designated engineer, and designers on the trail project, which is being coordinated through NDOR. We're kind of at the beck and call of NDOR with federal funding, and so whatever engineering they have to do is required into it. Otherwise, if you don't get it done, you then void out your federal funding and you get paid all back. So this is just a supplemental agreement to that to let them continue on their process in regards to engineering services to service that project being done through NDOR. Mel Aldrich and myself did go down and meet with NDOR, now NDOT, and Shimmer, and we had a coordinated meeting to kind of look through the next stages of progress as they begin to do their final levels of design and approval, which will involve environmental and some of the other things that are involved in that. So we'll just keep plugging along.
Are there any questions or comments from the council on this item? Otherwise, I would ask for someone to introduce the resolution.
I'll introduce it.
The resolution has been introduced and is designated as resolution number 2017-16. Would anyone like to move that this resolution be passed and adopted?
So moved.
We have a motion, is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Welcome back, Campbell, Fritz, Miller, Single, Schmidt, Hancock.
Item number 11, this is consideration of affidavit waiving liens on property located at 528 North 3rd Street due to tax foreclosure. Greg or Kelly, did you want to kind of brief the council quickly on that?
Yeah, I sure can. This is the Seward County Attorney is instituting an action to foreclose on some tax certificates for some unpaid taxes on a parcel here in town. There's been a complaint filed, and I have entered my appearance on behalf of the city yesterday. So it's basically a court action to foreclose on those certificates. And we're an interested party in the real estate because we have special assessment and also another special assessment for some work that some demolition costs. $14,484 for demolition costs, I believe, and then hefty amount of interest as well, $8,000 in interest. And then the water and sewer lien was in the amount of $198.41 and interest of $120.55. So I don't think it's in the best interest of the city at this time to waive any of its rights or interests in the property. And I'd like to do a little bit of research on our priority as far as our liens and where we stand, and also see that there's some title work that was done on the parcels to determine who else has priority on the property. So my recommendation for you would be to postpone this item indefinitely.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Would someone like to make that motion or any other motion for that matter?
We need a motion, Kelly, if we just.
To table it indefinitely?
Yeah, that would be good.
Would you like to make the
I'll
motion?
move the table indefinitely.
We have a motion and a second to table this item indefinitely. Please register your vote. Please display the vote.
Welcome back, Campbell, Fritz, Miller, Single, Schmidt, Hancock.
Next item is number 12, consideration for approval of a master services agreement with GIS Workshop LLC and authorization for the mayor to execute the agreement. Greg, do you want to explain that one?
This is just our master service agreement every year that we update and reauthorize ourselves to use GIS mapping, which is who we use for most of our mapping for online mapping services. Ed is becoming our contact point for GIS, transitioning away from John, who was doing that previously. And with my focus of wanting to get back to with our water systems, sanitary sewer system, electrical system, get back in the process and making sure we're following up with GIS to make sure that's an accurate system for purposes of development. We're seeing a lot, Ed and I have been working lately on a lot more opportunities for development, and it's a big impediment to our progress and the work we have to do. We have to go back and get out the old maps for each plat to actually look at where some of the services we were putting in, because our GIS isn't accurate. And so we want to re-up for another year and start working with GIS to coordinate. And then obviously when the new city engineer comes in as well, they're going to rely on this heavily. So we want to make sure that we have a quality product. One of my other biggest, not a huge issue, but biggest pet peeves is anytime we're authorizing anything on behalf of the city, I want to make sure that it's approved by this body and signed by the mayor, rather than having department heads do that. And so I think you'll start seeing more and more things like this coming to you guys, for better, for worse, but I think that's the appropriate way to do it. And so I just make the recommendation, we're going to continue on with GIS as we've done it before, but we're going to make a strong commitment over the next coming year, working through Ed's training and also the new city engineer to really take advantage of it.
So Greg, are we entering the mappings on GIS, or, and we're just, this is I was trying to find that, and when I was reading through this, I mean, we're just paying a licensing fee for GIS, or do they help with the mapping and all that?
Ed's here and he can speak to it if you want, but I believe in regards to GIS is we provide them the data points and then they help assist putting it in. Is
Right,
that,
GIS workshop has basically took
can you
the
come
data.
forward, Ed? Sorry.
Yep. GIS workshop basically takes the data we provide them and inserts it onto the city's website, GIS website.
So one of the other problems we ran into that we're just starting to get grasp of again is we were converting to different applications like Beehive and some of the other ones, and so the back and forth through all those different program points has caused some of our GIS information to either decay or become inaccurate. And so as I,
Started with Esri,
Yep.
then went to Beehive, and then again, lost some data because our contract expired and didn't get it transferred accurately to GIS workshop.
so one of my biggest pet projects for the city engineer when they come in is to help rebuild this and work through all the data, work through all the mapping that we've done, work through all the plat maps and everything else to locate, and then to go out and do accurate locates. I know, as I just said before, me and Ed have run into a number of things and looking at developments right now. Water, when they're out trying to shut off valves during these emergencies, they're looking on maps on GIS and thinking there's a valve there. They go to the spot, there isn't a valve within 30 feet of it. Or we go and find out that valves have been paved over, and so they're underneath concrete now and with no access to them, all kinds of things. And so we really need to get back on top of making sure this system is accurate and that we're using GIS correctly to the best of our ability.
And it's a two-step. I mean, the first focus is getting it current. Then the next focus is going to be making it current as we move forward and update it appropriately, because oftentimes, you know, at one time it may be 100% accurate, but then if the proper maintenance isn't done, then it gradually over time becomes less and less reliable. Because
Well, that's kind of where my questions were. I mean, where does the maintenance fall? Within us to do it, or does it take both parties to get it done? You know, because when you look at this, they note a fee of $7,500 for services / licensing. It doesn't break out what the licensing and the software is. It's services and licensing. So, I mean, can we expect to be paying $7,500 a year perpetually? Or
We have been.
it's just $7,500 because they're doing extra services for us this year to do things?
We've been paying, I believe, $7,500 perpetually every year back to whenever we started with GIS. It may have been a lesser amount, but
And before that, it was much higher
Yeah.
with Beehive.
so I think you'll continue to see $7,500 as an annual. But again, some of these master contracts that are built into different departments maybe sometime weren't brought to the council, they were just signed off on. And I always want to make sure if we're obligating the city in a contractual agreement that we're at least having it signed and authorized by the mayor. And so I think that's the most appropriate way to make sure the city's actually on the hook. So you're gonna get more of these. But I would recommend, you know, entering into this agreement and continuing our relationship with GIS. I think they offer the best product. It works well for what we plan to do in the future, and it integrates into a lot of systems. So I know our engineering partners, even the bigger firms that we work with, it works well within what they're implementing. So
Doesn't the county use the same system?
GIS workshop also supplies the county with their GIS now, so.
Any other questions or comments from the council? I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a motion and a second? Chris? Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes. Next, item number 13, consideration of job description for municipal building administrative assistant. Greg?
Yes, this is kind of the process that we went through when we went budget and did the budget. We talked about how we were gonna kind of change over the GIS coordinator capital projects position to the city engineer. We had the permit tech position, and that was designated as a full-time position that we never filled full-time. And currently, we have Vicky in our office serving in that capacity, but she was never hired on as a permanent full-time, permanent part-time, or anything else. She was brought in to assist when we just had an overboard in that office. And so she's been doing that in that capacity for about a year. And so what I did was contact Ed, who works predominantly with Vicky in that position, and said, let's really define what she's doing and what that position is and what the need is in the office. And so what we came up with is the municipal building administrative assistant. And as you see there in your, and maybe if you guys have the color version, but we didn't adjust terribly much of the permit tech position, other than we removed the technical aspects of it, which was the GIS data entry, some of the stuff with scanning and platting. Other than that, everything else that's defined there was actually from the permit tech, and Vicky does, and Mia and Ed confirmed this, that when contractors come in and they're filling out permit applications, she checks through and makes sure everything's filled out correctly in regards to, they checked all the correct boxes to have an accurate permit, they put in the right amount of money, it adds up correctly, and she'll make sure that she provides it on to Ed, and he'll provide the technical aspect of a permit. He'll look through and make sure that they're doing it correctly or go out for an on-site inspection. She handles the administrative side of it. And that's really what's defined here. And so she's providing that. She's doing that for when people are putting in plats, when they're doing permits, when they're doing electrical inspections, everything else that's listed there. In addition to that, she's also serving in capacity as basically like our front door person when people come into this building. Unfortunately, this building is not conducive for walk-in traffic because you walk right into the chamber for the council. And so if somebody's not here for Parks and Rec at that time, or Ed's in his office and he can't see who's coming in, the first person that's going to make contact with people when they come in this building, Vicky actually sits in this office behind us, is Vicky. And so she's servicing not only permits and building inspection and zoning, but also doing that for Parks and Rec when they're not in. And then also due to the fact that we have Mel Aldrich's office here, she also helps on a minimal side on the street side. We don't get as much walk-in traffic. She also answers the phones for all three of them at different points during the day, especially when people are not here. And she very much serves in that administrative assistant fashion for this building. I know on the Parks and Rec side, she also does mass mailings, runs, does all kinds of other things, takes all of the flyers that we distribute to the schools, and does things like that. And so we just think this is a more accurate description of what she does, and it takes away some of those technical aspects that she's not able to do, and we wouldn't want that position doing in the first place. Some of that stuff is going to transition over to Ed's job description, especially on the GIS side. The only other recommendation is that we're going to be looking to move this to a permanent part-time rather than full-time. So with permanent part-time position, that does qualify for what our minimal benefits are, which they get like half days off and half holidays. Other than that, no other offered benefits. They don't get pension, retirement, health insurance, none of those are offered. But that's our plan for it. I don't know if Ed has any more to add to it?
Just for clarification, the original permit tech position was filled as a full-time position, I think for 2 years. Brandon Wood filled that originally when the council approved that creation of that position.
Yep.
Thanks, Ed. Are there any other questions or comments on item number 13? I would entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please spread the votes.
What do you think our welcome back, have a 6 minutes and Schmidt has motion?
Before we do 14, let's just clean up the rest of this real quick. We have 15 is city administrator's report. Greg, we got one real quick.
Yeah, the only thing on that one I know, Councilman Hans asked was in regards to the golf clubhouse. As I stated before, I think we've completed all of the fire inspections and all the renovations in regards to emergency exits, the cleaning of the hood, all the elements in the kitchen that needed to be inspected by fire inspection and cleaned out by the private companies that kind of do those things. We had all that cleared out. We had fire rated separations installed correctly within the storage rooms in the basement. And so pretty much everything on the fire side and the emergency side is clear. It's now we've moved on. Bob Core and myself met with Maverick Group and stopped out there a few weeks back. And the next two steps are plumbing and flooring for the kitchen. The flooring in there is in really, really bad shape. There's a lot of subfloor work that's gonna need to be done. And so what we're gonna do on that one is work out their plan, because they have a flow that they want in there in that kitchen that's different than how it's set up now. And so they're designing how they want that to look. We're gonna have to install at least at a minimum a 3-basin sink that's not in there. It's required for health code concerns and things like that. So they're gonna design it, where they're gonna put their dishwasher and how they're gonna flow through the kitchen. Once they provide that to us, we'll adjust the plumbing fixtures in the building. We'll remove any of the equipment that they don't need anymore and get it out of there because it just serves no purpose. And then at the end, we'll come in and do the flooring. And then we'll be done, and we'll be able to negotiate a new lease rate and turn it over to them to be able to operate as a fully functioning kitchen.
Dave, did you add anything?
What about the roof?
The roof, at this point, we've had, since we went through in the spring, prior to my arrival, we had them do some sealing on some eaves and some, around some other of the elements that we thought might be leaking. To our knowledge, we've not had a single leak since the spring.
Okay.
And we've asked everybody that's been in that building to monitor it very closely, go check the bathrooms and everything else on a regular basis, especially after the major rains and winds we've had this summer, even into the fall. Not a single issue has been reported. And so we would like to ride it out as long as we could.
Did they take the carpet out of the restrooms and stuff?
They have not done that yet.
Haven't done that
So flooring is probably the last one, because we'll also, we're gonna try a few different options on the flooring in the reception hall area. It's just, if you walk through there, it's sticky, it's kinda greasy. So Bob Core's group is gonna try a few different things and see what works best. And if there's no option, then we may come back and look at replacing the flooring to some other different style that's more conducive to what we got going on in there.
Where are we in terms of costs?
I don't have that total, but we're significantly below budget. So we're doing really well. We have estimates for everything we've planned, for the roofing, for the flooring. Plumbing is kind of dependent on where they want the fixturing. That's the only one that we don't know for sure, but we have a general idea. But I think we estimated 50,000 for that, approximately. We're well below that.
Dick, are you good with that report? Okay. Anything other questions or comments with the report? Yes.
I'm just curious if there's anything you can share on the, what's taking place out at the airport. You mentioned an on-site tour with Senator Coulterman out at the airport.
Yes, Senator Coulterman and I were invited out there by Olson Associates and their aeronautics engineer that they have that does just like landing strips and things like that, just to kind of give us an update on what's going on in small level aeronautics throughout the state, which is state funding is dwindling down to nearly next to nothing. And so they kind of wanted to show us the data on that, and then just to give us a general tour and let us know what sort of aviation use we're getting out there, what's coming in and out on the commercial and private side. And so it was kind of eye-opening and interesting. But in regards to what's going on out there, they continue their seeing, as we see all across government funding. On the state side, considerable restriction pulled back in regards to the amount of grant funding that's available. And on the federal side, they're starting to see it as well. That they used to be able to fund, whether it was hangars or improvements to the runways or whatever else, they were being able to secure up to 95 to 97.5% grant funding for a project. And now that's pulling all the way back down to 90 and below, which is a significant cost when you're doing $1 million, renovation on a landing strip or something like that. So they just wanted to inform us and let us know the restrictions that they're under, let us know you know, they're open for business. We have a functioning business, which is kind of different than you might find at other airports. We actually have a functioning business that operates out of our airport that does all kinds of really interesting and neat things in regards to not only repairs and maintenance on site for both planes and helicopters, but they also are involved in a lot of projects where they're going to a site, for instance, taking apart an airplane and transporting it all across the nation and the world. And they specialize in that. And we're talking really big planes that they're moving all over the place. So it's pretty neat. But you don't get to see that in a lot of other first-class communities. So that's really what it was, is just to provide information as there's no request or asking anything of the city. They just wanted to kind of get us informed on what's going on out there.
Any other questions or comments on the report? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to accept the report. The motion, is there a second? The motion and a second, you ready for the vote? Please display the votes.
Kenny Farrell, welcome back, Kevin Fritz, Miller, Singleton, Schmidt, Hans, motion carried.
Do we have any future requests for council agenda items or administrative action? Seeing none, I don't have any announcements real quick. Jonathan, before we go into the closed session, do you have any announcements? What do you have coming up?
Yes, we mentioned a lot of them at the membership luncheon today. Of course, the Christmas festival upcoming the Saturday after Thanksgiving. We'd encourage everyone to participate in that. Let's see, what else do we have upcoming? Our annual extravaganza will be in January 22nd, upcoming as well. And of course, we just encourage you to keep up to date with Blue River Buzz on other activities going on. We're pleased to host, of course, the Nebraska Diplomats last week and appreciate participation from Greg and the Mayor in that activity.
Thanks, Jonathan. So now we'll jump back to our last remaining item on the agenda, which is item number 14. This is a strategy session with city attorney to provide negotiation guidance concerning real estate interests at the commercial rail campus development area. Kelly, do you want to add anything? Chris?
I move that the city council go into closed session with the mayor, Jonathan Jank, the city administrator, and the city attorney for the protection of the public interest to discuss the commercial rail campus development area real estate acquisitions, and to provide the city attorney with negotiating guidance for a period not to exceed 30 minutes.
Do we need a second on that? Okay, we have a motion and a second. What's that? Yeah, so, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Kenny Farrell, welcome back, Kevin Fritz, Miller, Singleton, Schmidt, Hans, motion carried.
Alright, the motion passes. I'll now restate on the record immediately, restate the motion that the council will go into closed session with the mayor, Jonathan Jank, city administrator, and the city attorney for the protection of the public interest. Discuss the commercial rail campus development area real estate acquisition and provide the city attorney with negotiating guidance for a period not to exceed 30 minutes. Kill your camera.
Don't kill it.
Alright.
We are reconvening from our closed session. For the record, no formal action by the city council was taken in closed session. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Second motion and a second. You register your votes. Please complete your votes.
Voting in favor, Hans, Beck, Camper, Britt, Miller, Singleton, Schmidt. There.
All right.
It passes.